know that Tata Motors actually have the most comfortable rides. We all know that it's a proudly made Indian company. But we all also know that it was Ratan Tata's dream to make sure all of us have cars in the further future. But having all this in mind, yet still, somewhere the Tata company failed when it came to the marketing or expansion of the Nano cars. I'm going to tell you why and what are the reasons this particular car failed when it came to marketing. Most amazing built car strategy, but still it failed. I'm Varsha Kumar. Welcome to Freedom Business English channel. Do not forget to subscribe and download our Freedom app. We all know that automobiles from the Tata Motors were exquisitely good. But what we don't know is that why Tata Motors did not do the same great job when it comes to Nano. As we all know that Nano car is one of the most affordable car when it comes to the Indian market. But in the initial stages of Nano, this actually failed. Let me tell you a couple of reasons and couple of things that Tata company should have considered in the initial stages before they even made this mistake. They actually found the solution for this entire problem at the end, which they should have actually done it in the start. First thing is that when they actually happened to market the Nano car, what mistake they did was that they portrayed this particular car was being sold at a cheap price. Let me tell you this, the mistake that they did when they actually meant it as cheap was that they had to tell it was affordable by the Indian market. When the word cheap came out, people started looking at the car in such a way that if at all we bring this car home, people are going to think that what is this car? They've actually got a cheap product home. So the word cheap went around the market and crawled into people's mind that they wouldn't actually look at this car. And thinking about the tagline, which further moved on to the people's mind, as well as when it came to the car product, the product was really good. Whatever they wanted the Indian market to have was indeed a great idea. But the way they pictured it and the way they imprinted in the people's mind was again a mistake. People didn't want to buy Nano not because of the design, but indeed they did like the entire model, but just because of the society and the way they would look at them if at all they could get in the product. Just imagine, if somebody tells you that is a cheap product and identifies it by telling the word cheap, you wouldn't actually want to buy that product. So this was one of the mistakes what Tata Motors did. So the second one was that they imprinted in people's mind that this car was actually one of the cheap cars. People didn't actually want to go towards this car no matter how good the entire product was. If you are a person looking at a product, you would at the end see the productivity it's giving. But when it's stated that it's a cheap product, no matter how good the productivity is, you would still think of the status itself. If you're a person who's in middle class or an upper middle class, you wouldn't even think of buying Nano. That's how it was actually imprinted. So thinking about this topic, how this all started was that there was an ad where a man in a cycle was going by the side of the road. He happens to see a Nano car and then he thinks that he can easily afford it. After that, the tagline says that this car is actually the cheapest car, while they had to actually mention that it was an affordable car by anyone. So when the word cheapest actually came into existence, people's mind actually started revolving around the word which was called cheap. Nobody turned towards the market of Nano. If anybody had a Nano car, they would look at it also in a cheaper way. So that was one of the mistakes where Tata Motors did in the process of marketing. When you're a brand and when you have to show your particular business or your product in a really nice way, use the wise words because you never know what mistake or what can happen to the entire market just because of a word. And even when you think about your brand has to know what is a particular sector of people or audience that they have to cover and what is your main reach when it comes to the productivity, what is your thought about solving people's problem. Even when it comes to all this, yet still you make a wrong choices, let me tell you this, that can actually affect you in a long term. This is what happened to the initial stages of Nano. But over the time, they actually collected the entire market research and they thought of a plan which has to come against and counter their own strategy of marketing which had happened in the previous way. So then they sat, collected people's thoughts about how the product was. People actually liked the product, but not the way they portrayed it. And then Tata sat and thought about the entire process that they have to connect with people, and then they got into people's way by emotionally getting into their hearts. So for whatever morals that we have derived is that one thing that you have to keep in mind about your brand is that no matter how important or how good your brand is to the market, you have the ways of marketing and you have to go through the steps. And remember, your marketing is actually the key towards your financial way of business as well. If people like your product and if people have a good impression on your product, they are going to be the success towards your business. First impression is always the best impression. So remember that you always have to focus on the way that once you get your product into the market, remember that that has to flow through the market in the same way. Remember that whatever people are going to see in the first stage is the final stage that they're also going to review about. You have to keep yourself in the customer's place and think about why would you buy this product, and remember that how would I accept this product if I were a customer, and what are my necessary needs that I have to think about when I am in the customer's place. So thinking about all this will actually give you an easy way towards marketing. Marketing is not just bringing in what is your product and why is your product in the market and who are the brand ambassadors who are representing your product. Remember that that has to actually convince the customers that your product is actually a good one, and branding is itself an important thing. How can you imprint your name of the brand or the product in people's mind? Well, that's all on you. No matter even if you're a bigger company. The way you portray your product in a larger scale or a smaller scale and you target the audience, those audience are actually the ones who are going to promote it to other people as well. So it's all just in the first step. Make sure your first step is so strong that the rest is handled by your customers themselves. Now I'm going to actually tell you the way that the Tata Motors solved this problem, which they should have initially done it, but ended up realizing it later, and then they bought in a really good way that they could counter the market with their amazing strategy. They countered their old idea with a new idea. Talking about this, they actually happened to produce an ad in which all the rich people were actually buying their kids' nano car. Then that convinced people that this was an affordable car and people would still buy it no matter what, because all the middle class and upper middle class, all the rich people who are actually buying the car to their kids. So this actually showed the crowd that yeah, it's not a cheap car, but it's just an affordable car, and this was emotionally connecting with them because this was Ratan Tata's dream and Nano was a perfect invention that they made. This car actually has a lot of added advantages to itself, but still, it couldn't make it to the market that easy in the initial stage. At the end, as an entrepreneur and as a winner in this market, he came back with a bang and made sure that all of them understand why is there an existence of nano car in the market and why should people buy it. And the actual moral that we learn from this entire brand is that you can always come up with new ideas and you can always rectify your mistakes. Rectifying your mistakes is one of the most easy and simple things that you can learn. But as an entrepreneur, we all fail at some point. But remember that at the end, you can come up with new ideas as well. Thinking about the brand and itself is one of the most important things as an owner. But thinking about the way you can market it is entirely another thing. To be honest, Tata Nano car is one of the most amazing car and it is a special car itself. It actually happened to come into the market half a decade ago, and this was the dream of Ratan Tata. But this dream had to go under pause because of the underwhelming response that they got from the crowd. Ratan Tata wanted to deliver to everyone 1 lakh rupee car so that everyone could afford and drive safe. But this became an example for marketing don'ts. Tata Motors have regenerated their entire nano car and launched it in new ways. As a business, they keep developing and upgrading their levels of business as well. Marketing is another way of promoting and making sure that people buy. But as I always keep telling, first impression is the best impression. That's what you have to remember as a brand and everything towards your company. And also, don't forget to download our Freedom app because it's got a lot of courses. I can say you more than 500 courses and you can learn how to market and brand in that itself. You can start your business from the ground level and learn directly from the live examples. You have business in marketing, you have personal finance and organic farming as well. If you're a farming lover, make sure that you tune into our app and learn more about farming. You can download this particular app from App Store or Play Store. And also, before ending this video, do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much. Get wise and break free.